بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The topic which we are going to look at in this week's lesson in Arabic is entitled as Kitabul Hiba, which in English means the rules and the regulations with regards to gifts, hiba and hadiya in Islam. So in this particular topic we will be looking at gifts, the virtues of giving gifts, and also we will be looking at situations and scenarios where if you were to give a gift to someone, it is impermissible for you to ask for it back. We will also be looking at situations regarding what types of gifts are permissible to give and what types of gifts are impermissible to give. So this will be the topic for this week's lesson. Now with regards to gifts, there are many ahadith and virtues regarding giving gifts. And in particular, there is a hadith which can be found in Sahih Muslim that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that by giving gifts, tahabu, it creates love and it creates harmony within the two brothers and within the Muslim community. So one way to create ittihad and closeness is by giving gifts. And this is further elaborated by another hadith which can be found in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Tahadaw, give gifts, fa innal hadiyata tuzhibu ad-dagha'in," which means that by giving gifts, it takes away the dagha'in, i.e. the hatred, the rancor, and the jealousy a person has in his heart. Now this is a very beautiful example. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us a beautiful hidayah and guidance to take away what we call jealousy and hatred from a person's heart. Now, most of the time what happens is that hatred which comes, it comes unintentionally and it comes from shaitan. I think generally speaking, we don't actually wake up in the morning and intentionally try to have hatred for someone or intentionally try to have some hasad and some jealousy and malice for our Muslim brothers or sisters. But what happens is that unintentionally, shaitan puts these thoughts into our hearts. So sometimes what happens, shaitan just like unintentionally, no apparent reasons, he starts then putting these feelings in your heart that Abdurrahman here don't like Abdurrahman, or Abdurrahman he's kind of competing with you, or Abdurrahman like he's trying to think he's better than you. In reality, Abdurrahman is not being like that. Abdurrahman is not trying to be like that, but shaitan is putting these kind of thoughts in your heart. Because remember what shaitan wants to do. Shaitan, very crafty, very deceptive. He wants to cause disunity within the Muslims. So therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that if a brother or a sister has these kind of thoughts where without any reason he just like doesn't like this brother here, without any reason he doesn't like this Muslim sister here, without any reason he doesn't like Abdurrahman, he doesn't like Zayd, he doesn't like Bakr. So what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, take away that malice, take away that jealousy by giving him a gift. It doesn't have to be something expensive, it doesn't have to be an expensive watch, it doesn't have to be a mobile phone. Even a small utter bottle, which probably costs £1, £1.50, £2, give that to your Muslim brother, and then you'll see what happens is as soon as you give that utter to that Muslim brother, something small, then that kind of barrier which was there, the malice and the jealousy which was there, you'll see that that will automatically go away. And you'll then see that that brother who you have given the gift to, he will also show that same love and ittihad to you as well. And the next thing you know that, you two are now working together, you two are now loving each other, and there is now peace and harmony between you two. A while ago there was some hatred and hasad, but by doing something simple, i.e. giving a gift, that hasad, that malice, that hatred and that jealousy you had, it all disappeared. So this is one of the virtues and one of the main reasons and the purposes of giving gifts, and that is that it takes away this kind of jealousy and hatred from a person's heart. Now, gifts, this section about gifts and hadiyah, it's got to do with muamalat. Muamalat meaning social etiquettes and social adabs. And it's one of those topics where there are many rules attached to it socially, because sometimes if you are giving a gift to someone, or if, say for example, you don't accept a gift, it could actually hurt a person's feelings. Just say for example, you spent so much money, or you went through so much effort, you went, say, on Coventry Road, on Stratford Road, very busy, say on a Saturday, you had to like park really far away from the shop, then you went to a shop and you bought something. So you went through a lot of effort, you went through a lot of like difficulty and hardship. Sometimes what could have happened is that you may have borrowed money from someone. So you went through undue hassle to get this person a gift. Now when you go and give this person a gift, and if he turns around and says, well, no, I don't want this, then you're going to be breaking his heart, you're going to be breaking his feelings. So that's why, because this topic has got to do with muamalat, like adabs and etiquette, many rules and regulations have been attached to this particular topic. In particular, there is a book written by Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah alayh, known as Adabul Mu'ashara. And in this book, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimullah has mentioned some adabs when it comes to giving gifts and when it comes to accepting gifts. I'm just going to mention a few in front of you. Number one, the first adab or etiquette of giving gifts and accepting gifts is that if you want a favor from someone, don't give a gift to that person before. Just say you want someone to do a favor for you, you want someone to help you out for something, don't then soften him up by giving him a gift. Because it's mentioned in a hadith of Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Tirmizi, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has classified such gifts to be like rishwa and bribery. So just for example, you want something, just say Abdul Rahman here, you want to borrow some money from Abdul Rahman, say £1,000. So don't then give him a gift before. Just say you buy something for £5, £10, and then you give him a gift. And then as soon as you give a gift, you then ask Abdul Rahman, okay Abdul Rahman, can you borrow me or lend me £1,000? So that would not be allowed. Why? Because you're using that gift. You're not doing it with the intention of unity and ittihad, but you're giving that gift with the intention to get something back from it. So that is something which is wrong. And as I mentioned in the hadith, that this is known as a form of rishwa and a form of bribery. And that's why, if we want to slightly elaborate, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that those people who have authority, like those people you could say who are umaras, those who are leaders and so on, it's actually considered somewhat disliked for them to accept gifts from the people and from the awam. They shouldn't accept it. So just for example, someone's imam of a community or of a masjid, he shouldn't really accept gifts from people. Because what could then happen is that then that person will, when the imam, when he's like judging over someone or when he tries to do something, because this individual has given him a gift, has suffered him with a gift, then sometimes it blinds him from saying the truth and the haqq, which happens a lot, where basically people are giving gifts to the imams, and then because when the imam wants to then speak out the truth and the haqq, just say then that person is doing something wrong, he can't do it. Why? Because that person has just bought him out by giving him a gift, by giving him money and so on. So therefore Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that those who have leadership, those who are in authority, they should not accept gifts from the awam and the people. And in an Islamic state, this is actually acted upon even more staunchly, that those who are qazis, those who are judges, it's impermissible for them to take any gifts. Because obviously if they are taking gifts, the qazi and the judge, then what happens is that if that person is ever in trouble in the future, he did something wrong, he did something bad, he did this kind of wrong thing or unlawful things, then because this person has given a gift to the qazi and the judge, the judge then will feel inclined to give a more lenient ruling rather than a ruling which was according to the Quran and the Sunnah. So the first point to remember, the first adab is that if you want to give if you want a favor from someone, or if you want to ask something from someone, then don't give a gift before. The second adab, or the second etiquette, is that it is best to give the gift in private. So if you do decide to give a gift to someone, it is best that you give the gift in private, in seclusion, not to do it in front of everyone. Now the reason why, and this is more got to do with sincerity and ikhlas, because if you in front of everyone was to say Maulana Sahib or Imam Sahib, this is a gift for you, then what could happen is that there could be a form of pride or arrogance that, or show off, or riya, what we call in Arabic, where this person is trying to show to everyone that, oh, I'm so generous, I'm so kind, I'm so pious that I'm giving gifts to the Imam. So it's considered to be afdal and preferable that when you do give gifts, give it in seclusion and give it in privacy. Because remember, when you give gifts in privacy and in seclusion, that tells you that how much ikhlas and how much sincerity you have. And this is something very, very important, because nowadays it's very, very common that when there's donations or collections being done for the masjid, that people just raise their hand and say £1,000, or Maulana Sahib or Imam Sahib or Abdul Rahman give £1,000 and so on, is actually considered against sincerity and ikhlas to give donations like that. The best way, the taqwa way, the piety way of giving donation is that afterwards, when the gathering has finished, you go to the Imam Sahib and say, Imam Sahib, I give £1,000 for the masjid, or I give £2,000 for masjid. That tells you sincerity, that tells you ikhlas. If somebody in front of everyone picks his hand up and says, I want to give £100,000 or £10,000, £20,000, sometimes you could say to a certain extent that his intentions may be tainted in terms of why is he making such an announcement for in front of everyone. So that could be a form of riya, it could be a form of riya and show-offing. So therefore Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, and this is one of the adabs of giving gifts, that it's best that you give it in private and you give it in seclusion. And everybody knows about the severity of riya. Riya means show-offing, but everybody knows that the reason why it's so severe is because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described riya, show-offing, to be a form of shirk khafi. One is the apparent shirk, where you worship the idols and so on. And then there is another form of shirk which is called shirk khafi, where you're doing things but not for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you're doing it for fame, you're doing it for name. And it's mentioned in the hadith that in the hereafter, those people who did any kind of actions for someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell that person that don't come to me for the reward. You've prayed namaz, don't come to me for the reward or the thawab. Go to that person who you prayed namaz for. Go to that person who you fasted for. Go to that person who you gave zakat for, or sadaqah or charity for. And it is obvious that that person or someone other than Allah can't give reward, can't give thawab. So obviously that person will not be able to do anything for him. So those actions which you did would be considered invalid in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and such a person will be doomed to the fire of hell. So as I was saying, that the second adab or etiquette is that to give gifts in private. The third adab or etiquette when it comes to giving gifts, that when a person, the mawhub lahu in Arabic, the person who accepts the gifts, he should not then give the gift to someone else in the person's presence. So just for example, Abdul Rahman gave me a gift, he gave me a mobile phone. Now in his presence, I should not then give this gift to someone else. Obviously you can't give the gift to someone else afterwards, because remember, when somebody gives you a gift, it's now in your possession. So you could do whatever you want. If you want to break it, if you want to sell it off and recoup the money, if you want to throw it away, if you want to throw it in the bin, you're allowed to do that, because it's your possession, it's in your milkiyat, it's in your ownership. But what you should not do is, just say Abdul Rahman has just given me a gift now, a mobile phone, and then whilst he's in the same gathering, whilst in his presence, I then give this gift to someone else and say, Bakr, this is a gift from myself. So you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because, as I was explaining before, it's going to hurt his feelings. Because he'll think to himself that I went through so much hassle and so much difficulty and trouble getting this mobile phone, and then the Imam Sahib or Mufti Sahib, just in 2 minutes, he's just giving it to someone else. Then he's going to get a bit, he's going to feel a bit bad, he's going to feel a bit upset. So therefore, that's like another adab or etiquette, is that if you do accept a gift, don't give it to someone else straight away in his presence. You can give it to someone else afterwards, or whilst he's not there, you're allowed to do that because it's in your ownership. But whilst he is there, don't give it to someone else. The fourth ruling, the fourth adab or etiquette regarding giving gifts, is that, remember, when you give gifts to someone, in a way you're trying to praise him, you're trying to show that he's a very, very good person. It's a form of respect. It's a form of what we call in Arabic an urdu ta'zim, meaning that you give a gift to show that, mashallah, he's a very, very pious person. That's why when we give gifts to people, we try to give gifts to, like, say, imams or shuyukhs and scholars. The reason why we give it to them is because, mashallah, they're very, very pious, they're very, very knowledgeable, and we try to give gifts to these people. Now, turning the coin around, the scholars have mentioned that to give gifts to people who have done something wrong or who have done something unlawful or haram is not allowed. So I'll give you an example. Just say somebody, without his parents' permission, or just say there's a girl, without her parents' permission, she runs away from home, and then in secret she gets married to her boyfriend. Just say, for example. So now just say the friend of the boy or the friend of the girl knows about this particular nikah or secret nikah. It's not permissible for the boy or the girl or anyone to give gifts to this particular couple. Why? Because what they have done is something wrong. Even though the nikah will be done, the marriage will be done, but what they done was something wrong. Because they disrespected their parents, they left home. Now if you go and giving them nice gifts, watches and mobile phones or large amounts of money as gifts for their wedding, then you are actually doing ta'zim. Ta'zim meaning you're actually respecting them for what they have done. And remember, that's not the maqsad or the aim of a gift. Alright, the aim of a gift is obviously to do ta'zim and to respect pious people, or for good things, for good achievements. Somebody, say for example, became a hafiz, so you then treat him, you buy him something, you give him a gift. That's okay. Why? Because he's done something good. Someone has become a scholar, so you then encouraging him, you give him a gift. That's okay. Somebody has passed the exam, then that's good. Then you give him a gift. So unlike here, where somebody has done something wrong or bad, you should not give them a gift. Why? Because in a way you're kind of encouraging them, or you're trying to say that you're pleased with what they have done. In fact, what they have done is something wrong and something haram. Another example which scholars have given is, just say any children born out of wedlock. Okay, that's another example. Where, like for example, just say a boy and girl, without marriage, without nikah, they commit fornication and the girl gives birth to a child. So obviously what is the norm and the custom is that when a child is born, we give them a gift. We buy them some clothes and so on. But in this situation, you should not buy clothes for the child. Obviously, fair enough, it's not the child's fault. Okay, understand that, because obviously it was what their parents have done. But you, by giving gifts to the child here, you indirectly are doing ta'zim of the actions of their parents, i.e. Fornication and zina before marriage. So what I'm trying to say is that anything where people have done something wrong, like for example, a person has stolen some money from someone, then you don't give that person a gift for, mashallah, you stole some money. So what I'm trying to say is that people who have done wrong, don't give them gifts for that. Any kind of actions which they have done wrong, don't give them gifts, because by you giving them gifts, you're actually encouraging them, you're doing ta'zim of what they have done. Another ruling here, rule number 5, is regarding promotional gifts. Like for example, from banks and so on. So can we accept these kind of gifts or not? Now I mentioned this masla or ruling earlier on in an earlier lecture on Quduuri, that not all the money in a bank is haram or unlawful. Okay, so not all the money in a bank is unlawful and haram. The majority of the money in a bank is actually halal money. It's actually people's savings which are halal, and it's just like investments made by people. Only a certain percentage is haram, i.e. through interest and riba. But generally speaking, most of the money from a bank is actually lawful and halal. Now what I'm trying to say is that, just say for example, if a bank is giving you a gift, just say you got an account with Lloyd's, TSB or Barclays, and they're giving you a gift. Just say, like for example, a £5 voucher to go and spend in Asda or somewhere, then you can accept that particular gift. Why? Because most of the money from the bank is from halal sources. And this also goes in general as well, where there may be a brother whose majority of the income is halal. So if he was to give you a gift, like he buys you a mobile phone, he buys you a watch, then it is permissible for you to accept it. However, those companies where the majority of the money, or you could say most of the money, is from haram sources, you cannot accept gifts from them. You cannot actually take it. So like for example, alcohol companies, so just say Carlsberg or Carlings, and sometimes they give you some pens, and with like Carlsberg's logo on the pen or Carling logo on the pen, so you're not allowed to accept that. And at the same time, even though it's not, somebody hasn't given it to you, but you just found it somewhere, you should not even use it as well, because when you are like using a Carlsberg pen, you're actually advertising their brand, which is obviously advertising alcoholic companies, is something which is unlawful and haram. So what I'm trying to say is that those companies which deal 100% in haram, such as alcoholic companies, then it's not permissible for you to accept their gifts. And similarly, when a brother, just say for example, there's a brother or there's a person whose income, most of it is from haram sources. Just say for example, he's working in a restaurant, or he owns a restaurant where most of the money comes from haram, from alcohol sources, then in that situation, for you to accept the gift from that individual will also be unlawful and haram as well. So what I'm trying to say is that accept gifts from places, from organizations, from individuals whose income, most of it is halal, most of it is lawful, and those people whose income is haram and unlawful, or those organizations or places whose income is unlawful and haram, you're not allowed to accept their gifts. Now this then takes me on to the next topic here, regarding, is it permissible for Muslims to accept gifts from non-Muslims, and in particular, for example, during Christmas or Easter, is it permissible to accept gifts from non-Muslims? Now, with regards to accepting gifts, just in generally we're talking about before we look at gifts during Christmas and Easter, just generally speaking, when we look through the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find two types of ahadith. There are some ahadith where it says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted gifts from non-Muslims, and there are some ahadith where it says Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not accept gifts from non-Muslims. In particular, there is a hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari where it's narrated and reported that Najashi, the emperor of Ethiopia, who obviously converted to Islam later on, but initially he wasn't a Muslim, so he once gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a jubbah, a robe made out of silk. He gave that to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a gift, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted that. But obviously Rasulullah did not wear it himself, because for men to wear silk is unlawful and haram, but he accepted that particular gift. And also another hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, it's narrated that there was a place called Ayla, and there was a king of Ayla, and he once gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a garment, a robe, and also a mule as a gift, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted. So these two people, the king of Ayla and Najashi, the emperor of Ethiopia before he converted to Islam, they were non-Muslims, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted their gifts. And then there are other ahadiths where it tells us that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not accept gifts from non-Muslims. Now the scholars, what they've done is that they've kind of reconciled. They've done what we call tatbiq between the two narrations and the two ahadith. And what they've said is that in those situations where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought that by accepting the gifts from non-Muslims, it will bring them closer towards Islam, and it will bring some kind of harmony, and it will kind of build bridges between Muslims and non-Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would accept those people's gifts. And those non-Muslims who gave gifts to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought that, look, there's no point in accepting gifts from them because they're not gonna come to Islam, they're not gonna do this, they're not gonna do that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not accept any gifts from them. So what we can see is that situations where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought that it'd be better to build relations between Muslims and non-Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would accept gifts. Because when we look at the story in particular of the Emperor of Ethiopia, when he gave a gift to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted, later on the Emperor of Ethiopia did convert to Islam. He liked the manners and the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also the Sahabas who had migrated to Ethiopia, such as Abdullah bin Ja'far radiallahu anhu, the cousin brother of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he saw the akhlaq and the manners of the Sahabas and of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepting the gift, it became a sabab, a cause for the Emperor of Ethiopia, Najashi, to accept and convert to Islam. But in situations where, like in Makkah, before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina, there were stories of Abu Jahl and Walid bin Mughira. They would come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they would say that, look, if you want all the wealth of Arabia, we will give it to you. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't accept it, because obviously first and foremost it was against his mission, and number two, even if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted the gift, they're not going to believe, they're not going to come to Islam, they're not going to believe in Islam. So what we can say is that situations where you think that by accepting their gifts it will bring you closer to Islam, then you should accept it. But if you think that it's not going to bring them closer towards Islam, or there's no point or there's no reason, then you should not really accept it. Now this then takes me on to the question regarding Christmas, and is it permissible for Muslims to accept gifts from non-Muslims during this particular period? That's a very common question. Sometimes you may have neighbors who are non-Muslims and they are celebrating Christmas. So and they sometimes give you a gift during that period. Or sometimes what happens is that they give you a gift during your Eid. When you have Eid, they give you a gift, so you accept it. Now it's going to be a bit rude if you don't return the favor during Christmas time. Or just say, for example, during Easter and so on. So the question is that, can we accept gifts from non-Muslims during Christmas time and during Easter? Now there are three conditions which scholars have mentioned that if found, it is permissible to give gifts to non-Muslims during Christmas time and during Easter. Now the three conditions, they have been mentioned by Maulana Shaykh Ali Thanwi rahimahullah in his Imdadul Fatawa. The first one is that the intention, remember these three rules which you need to find to accept gifts from non-Muslims. Number one is, when you are giving them gifts or when you are accepting the gifts, it should be done with the intention of bringing them closer towards Islam. Okay, so that should be the first one, the niyat. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. So intention. Intention is not to use them afterwards, not to abuse their trust, not to betray them, not to get some favors from them as we're looking at before. But the intention is bringing them closer towards Islam. Number two, the second condition is that the gift which you are giving them, or the gift which they are giving to you, should not be something associated with Christmas, or should not be something associated with that particular festival. So just say, for example, Christmas time, the main thing during Christmas, say, is like crackers, or like Christmas trees, or just say, for example, something, those kind of things, the decorations, or some pudding which they may have, these kind of things, which is like something khas or unique with that particular festival, then you should not accept that. That's the second condition. And the third condition is that it is best that you don't give it on the day. So if you, like for example, give it 1 or 2 days before Christmas, or 1 or 2 days after Christmas, or best, like obviously give it before. So if you want to say, for example, give them Christmas cards, again, you're doing it not because you agree with what they're doing, but you're doing it more for relations, just to like keep that togetherness there. Just say it could be a work colleague, he gives you an Eid card, so you just want to return the favor. So you're giving the Christmas card, then don't give it on the 25th of December, give it 1 or 2 days before, or 1 or 2 days afterwards, or best would be like before, so that it's not considered that you are actually giving it on the actual day, which would be obviously impermissible and lawful. So these are 3 conditions which are found. Obviously, remember, it should only be done for those individuals who are in that particular environment. Okay, just for example, if you are in an environment where just say in an Asian environment in terms of or Muslim environment, just say all your work colleagues happen to be Muslims, so obviously you don't give them Christmas cards, you shouldn't give them like Christmas presents and so on, or Easter eggs. But obviously if you are in an environment where you got non-Muslim colleagues, or you're in an area or community where there are non-Muslims around, then it'll be quite good just for like to bring them closer towards Islam. Just give them a bit of da'wah. You just give them a card, something small like a card or a small gift. It could be a cause for them to accept Islam. And this is something which unfortunately we Muslims are lacking, is sometimes people think that the only way we could preach Islam is by giving big lectures and big talks. It's not all the time. Sometimes just through what we call in Urdu kirdad, like through your actions and your a'mal, that can be a great form of da'wah. And I'll just give you an example, a very famous story which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, of Thumama bin Uthal. I'm sure you probably heard this hadith before. That Thumama bin Uthal, he was actually the leader and the chief of a tribe called Banu Hanif. And Thumama, he hated Muslims. It's mentioned that if any Muslim went past his tribe, or they were near his tribe, he would get hold of them, he would torture them, and he would kill them. So he did not like Muslims, he did not like Islam at all. Now once Thumama, he made a nazar, he made a vow that he wants to go to Mecca and perform Umrah. Now you may be thinking, oh, he's a mushrik, he's a non-Muslim, how can he perform Umrah? But the Arabs or the mushrikeens of Mecca at that time, they would still go and perform Hajj and Umrah. Even though they weren't Muslims, but they would still go to Mecca and perform their Umrah and perform Hajj. So Thumama, he made a vow and a nazar that he wants to perform Umrah. So what happened was that he went for Umrah. The Muslims, they saw Thumama, they gripped him, they got hold of him, and they took him to Medina Munawwara, to Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they tied him against one of the pillars of Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now it's mentioned that Thumama, he was tied for 3 days. And the first day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went up to Thumama and said to Thumama that, what do you want? What's your situation? So Thumama said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you kill me, you are killing someone whose blood is expensive. Meaning that if you kill me, you have to then give blood money. And because I'm a leader of a tribe, my blood money is going to be very, very expensive and you won't be able to afford it. But if you want to free me and if you want ransom, then I'll give you all the ransom and all the money you want. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then left him. The second day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went, asked him the same question. Thumama, what do you want? So then Thumama replied that if you kill me, you're killing an expensive person. If you want to free me then and give ransom, then I'll give you the ransom. Again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left him. Third day, same question again. Thumama, what do you want? So Thumama replied that if you want to kill me, then you are killing someone whose blood is expensive. But if you want ransom and fidya, then I'll give you the ransom and fidya. On the third day after he said this, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam freed him, told him to go. He left Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he came by a nearby spring. He did ghusl, he had a bath, and then he went back into Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He converted to Islam. Now when you look at the story and the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu did not say once, believe in God, believe in Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu did not warn him about hereafter, about Jannat and Jahannam and doing good a'mals, or this is haram, this is unlawful. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the only question he was asking him for 3 days is, what do you want to do? And the response from him was, If you kill me, you're killing a person whose blood is expensive, and if you free me and if you want ransom, I'll give you the ransom. But what happened was that during those 3 days, while Thumama was tied in Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he observed the Sahabas. He observed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He observed the a'mals and the actions and the af'al of the Sahabas, that how they lived together in peace and in harmony. He saw that the Sahabas, they were like Arabs, non-Arabs, they were living together. They were black, they were white, they were living together. There was no problem at all. There was no kind of differences at all. Unity, ittihad. This is how the Sahabas and the companions were living. So when he saw this, he was amazed. He saw that if this what is Islam teaching and preaching, I want a part of it. So as soon as he was freed, he then went and he converted to Islam. So what I'm trying to say is that these, sometimes giving these kind of gifts, it can be a form of like da'wah, a form of like preaching. So this is something, it's very highly recommended that we try to give sometimes to our non-Muslim colleagues or non-Muslim neighbors, if it's done with that particular intention. Now, just one particular hadith and ruling to mention before we finish. It's a very famous hadith which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, also in Sahih Muslim as well, regarding asking back for the gift. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that al-aidu fi hibatihi kal-kalbi ya'udu fi qay'ihi, which means that if somebody asks for a gift back, so just say you gave a gift to Abdurrahman, just say you gave him a mobile phone, and then 2 days later or a couple of hours later you phone Abdurrahman and you say to Abdurrahman that I want my mobile phone back. So to ask for a gift back, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has used the word kal-kalbi ya'udu fi qay'ihi, is like a dog who is swallowing his own vomit. Okay, now just leave the word dog out for a second, but just imagine human vomit. So just imagine like you vomited. Now imagine you swallowing that vomit back. How repulsive and disgusting is. The example Rasulullah sallallahu used, even more repulsive than human vomit, is a dog's vomit. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that when you give a gift to someone and then you're asking for it back, it's so repulsive, your action, it's akin or similar to a dog vomiting and then swallowing that dog's vomit back. Okay, so something very, very repulsive. So what we can gather or derive is that when you give a gift to someone, generally speaking, you should not ask for it back. You're not allowed to ask for it back. It's haram, even though there may have been some issues with that individual afterwards, even though he may have betrayed you, even though he may have done some form of zulm or oppression, you're not allowed to ask for a gift back. Okay, just keep that in mind. The only scenario it's mentioned is it can be given back if the two people, the wahib, i.e. the giver of the gift, and the mawhub lahu, i.e. the receiver of the gift, if they are happy and the mawhub, the guy who received it, he is happy or he doesn't mind in giving the gift back. Only in that situation it will be permissible. And from this we can derive a common question which sometimes people ask. You just say, for example, there was an engagement. So what happened during engagement that the boy, he may have given some gifts to his fiancée, but just say it didn't work out, the nikah, or just say the nikah didn't happen and the engagement was cancelled or broken. So what generally happens in our culture is that whatever gifts the boy's family gave to the girl's family returning back to the boys, and vice versa, any gifts which the girl's family gave to the boy's family returning back to the girl. So that would be allowed. Why? Because there is taradhi and happiness and consent from both sides. That would be allowed. Okay, but just say, for example, if the nikah did happen and then they got married and so on, that's like another example as well, that even when you do get married and just say later on the marriage does end up in a divorce and a talaq, then whatever gifts you've given to your wife, you can't ask for it back. And similarly vice versa as well. So any kind of jewelries you gave to her, any necklaces, any clothes and so on and so forth you gave to her, if the nikah was to end in a divorce or a talaq, you can't ask for it back. Okay, unless obviously she wants to give it back, that's different. But if she doesn't want to give it back, she wants to keep it, then you can't forcefully ask for it back. And if you do, as mentioned in hadith here, asking for it back would be considered very, very repulsive. May Allah gives us tawfiq to what has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.